course, hello, ladies. Is there a reason you guys are sort of on the edge? Okay, do you guys want to like come more into this thing? Yeah, I don't know, it just feels like be better if everybody was closer. Come closer. You guys can see or maybe sitting on the floor. I don't know. If you want, yeah, go for it. Very informal. It feels like a hangout. Oh, okay. Well, it was a very nice warm welcome. I like that a lot. I felt like a superstar, a rock star. Okay, cool. Hey guys. So, thanks so much for being here. It's really amazing. This is my third stop, if you will, on my book tour, which is still crazy and weird. I can't believe I'm doing this. I assure you, it was never part of my life plan. I didn't have a life plan growing up, but here I am. The show, the movie, none of this stuff was ever anything that I thought I would be doing. So for all of you who look to be very young, for the most part, I encourage you to consider that life happens. You can't always plan it as much as you might think or like to think you can. So I talk about that a lot in the book, the idea that sometimes you just have to do things that excite you and that you're passionate about. I'm certainly excited and, to be honest, nervous even now doing this. And that's great, because if you're doing something and it doesn't make you nervous, maybe you should think about doing something else, because being nervous means you're excited, which means it's challenging, which means it's exciting, and those are the things that usually pay off in the biggest ways. Yeah. Can I get an amen? I would never say that if I weren't in Texas. Question, how many people here are 18 or older? Oh wow, it's like almost all of you. That's great. So I hope you're all as excited and enthusiastic and willing to wait in lines to vote as you were to come here today. So yeah, if you're not registered to vote, please make that the next thing you do after this today or tonight. You can go to ourtime.org. It's an organization I work with. They make it really easy. You can just put in your info and they'll help you get registered. How many of you are registered to vote? Oh wow, okay. So never mind. But cool. So I have a little section. Most of you guys just got the book today, so you probably haven't had a chance to read through it. So okay, good. I'm not going to be repeating something you've already heard. But chapter 17, you don't have to open up. It's not like, cool. I'm going to just read a little section from the book that I like, that I think is kind of fun. And then we'll do a Q&A, and we can hang out and take pictures, and it'll be great. So hold on. All right, I'm going to just sit here. It's like just the way I like to sit. Can everybody hear me? Okay? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is chapter 17. It's called How to Apologize. Maybe some of you don't need a guide for that, but I certainly do. Okay. I come from a long line of practical jokers and goofballs. Just one example. My grandfather, Marvin, used to think it was funny when women put on lipstick at the table after a meal was over. Have you guys ever seen ladies do that? Or maybe you've done it yourself? Oh yeah. So one night after dinner at a restaurant, when the wives all pulled out their compacts to touch up their makeup, he whipped out his electric razor and started buzzing his beard right there at the table. The guys thought it was funny, the ladies did not. My Uncle Michael is cut from the same cloth. Sit near him at a restaurant, and at any moment, you might expect a bread roll to come whizzing by your head. Once at a fancy fundraiser, he thought it would be funny to slip the expensive silverware into the purse of the woman sitting next to him, who happened to be of some royal European descent, and pretend she'd stolen it. Unfortunately, the forks and knives had already been used, and they ruined her incredibly expensive silk purse. She was not amused. When I was growing up, Michael's wife, my Aunt Candy, was constantly scolding him about his antics, and yet she always seemed to forgive him, no matter how badly he'd screw up. It didn't seem to negatively affect their marriage. I always wondered, how did he get away with it? Finally, when I was 12, I asked him. The secret to his ability to get away with murder? Never forget these words. "I'm sorry. I was wrong," he told me. "It's just 5 words, and they will end an argument every time, especially an argument with a woman. It doesn't matter what you're fighting about, or even if you know you're right. If you want to release the tension and move forward, just say it. I'm sorry, I was wrong." I took his advice to heart and began a long and illustrious career as a profligate apologizer. I had a lot to apologize for. I got in a tremendous amount of trouble. I was constantly making mistakes, and after my uncle clued me into his secret, I began apologizing constantly. It was my automatic response to any mistake I made, my get-out-of-jail-free card. I guess I did something wrong because you're unhappy and I'm in trouble, so I'm sorry, I was wrong. Now we're all square, right? I said what I'm supposed to say and that's it. I soon mastered the art of the apology, how to articulately state what I'd done wrong, say that I was sorry, and convince whoever was mad at me that I'd learned my lesson and felt terrible about it. I apologized to my friends, to teachers, my family, even the police, when I had to. I could convince almost anyone that I was sorry and that I didn't want to do it again, right up until the moment that I would do it again. I'd play the part of the repentant screw-up until the curtain dropped, and then I'd be right back at it. It was as if I'd had my fingers perpetually crossed behind my back. I was the most disingenuous person I knew. I wasn't really sorry, I didn't really get it, and my remorse was totally false. For a long time, my uncle's advice seemed to work, until finally, during one of my most critical moments in my life, when I punched my best friend in the face, it didn't. Mark was in the hospital with his skull cracked open. It was totally my fault. Everyone was upset with me. So I whipped out my usual apologies and dispensed one to everyone involved. I'm sorry I was wrong. I'm sorry I was wrong. I'm sorry I was wrong. For once, I really was sorry. But this time, instead of forgiving me, Mark stopped speaking to me altogether. My parents didn't buy my apology. My brother didn't want to be my friend anymore. I was like the boy who cried wolf. I'd screwed up so much without changing my behavior that no one actually believed my contrition anymore. I couldn't apologize my way out of this situation, because everyone knew that my apologies were meaningless. That's when it struck me that I'd been writing bad apology checks for years, and now they were bouncing. My apology credit with my family had run out. I was broke. My words had no value. At that moment, I realized that I couldn't just say I was sorry. I had to actually be sorry. I had to demonstrate how sorry I was and make sure that it would never happen again. A true apology in that situation could never be expressed in words, no matter how well crafted. It had to be an emotional, sincere, and observable change in behavior. There's an implied commitment when you apologize for something, a promise that you won't do it again. My uncle's advice was only half of the story. Saying I'm sorry isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's just the first step towards making a change. But a real, genuine apology can be incredibly effective. People are afraid to admit when they're wrong and take that hit, but the ability to confess your mistakes and take steps to address your behavior is at the foundation of all real relationships. These days, I take my apologies really seriously. When someone, say my girlfriend, is upset with me, I don't just immediately say, I'm sorry, except for farts. Apologies for farts should be instantaneous. Instead, I take a minute, sometimes 10, a couple hours at the most. I think about what the person is upset about and really consider my behavior, and only then do I go back and apologize. It takes longer, but it's done with real consideration, meaning, and self-reflection. And then, most importantly, I try to figure out how I can change my behavior to ensure that I won't screw up in the same way again. Thanks. So, I think just maybe to answer some questions that might come up, the reason that I wrote this book was pretty interesting. Most of you guys know me from the show Catfish, I imagine. And for those of you who are fans of the show, I'm sorry, Max is not here. Okay, Max is not here. He's in Hollywood shooting a movie with Zac Efron. Yeah, he wrote a movie and he's directing it. He's a superstar. But most of you know me from the show. Some of you may have seen the documentary Catfish, but even still, like, that's sort of Nev for the last 5 years. And Nev before 2008 was a real idiot. Not particularly reliable, kind of out of control, overly flirtatious and inappropriate, constantly getting kicked out of schools, and just making a lot of mistakes. And I feel like I kind of got a really lucky break, that I grew up just in time to make this documentary that happened to be a hit, and all this amazing stuff happened to me. But you don't really know the path that I took. And I feel like that's valuable to share, because when I do talk about it with people, it usually surprises them. And also, I think, kind of encourages them to try different things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Failure is not the end of the road, it's just the beginning of something else. So you'll find there's a lot of information about Catfish and the show and some fun behind the scenes stuff, but there's also a lot in here just about me and growing up and relationships and, you know, figuring out how to manage my sexuality and not be such a creep all the time, which I'm pretty good at now for the most part. But yeah, so that's sort of what this is all about. And I never dreamed. I mean, reading was something that I was not good at as a kid, and it's still something I have a hard time with. So to have a book that I wrote, like, it doesn't feel real, but it is. And I'm just so amazed that people want to take time out of their days, spend money, which is something everybody, you know, that just means a lot, that you guys are here and that you bought something that I made, and it's a real honor and pleasure to be here sharing it with you. So thank you, and now I'd love to answer any questions that you guys might have. Yeah, you don't have to clap. Unless you're clapping for yourself. But who's got a question? Right here. Yeah. Sure. Oh yeah, so the question was kind of how did we come up with the title Catfish? And yeah, in the documentary we did an interview with the husband of the woman who had catfished me. And he told us the story of this sort of old fishing legend, I think it's true, where they used to transport cod in these big ships across the ocean, and over time the cod, weeks at a time, would kind of stop swimming around, their muscle tissue would break down, and they would lose their flavor. So someone thought, let's put catfish in the tanks, not a lot, but a few. They'll chase and maybe catch and eat a few of these other fish, but at least it'll keep them all swimming. And in life, there are people who kind of keep us all guessing. And maybe they're not always doing things right, or they're challenging the way we think about things, but without those people, things would get boring. And we like that so much, and it's because, and this is something that I talk about a lot, like, I don't think catfish are bad, necessarily. I mean, some of them are scummy. Yeah, for sure some of them are bad. But for the most part, they're people who are curious, exploring how they feel, taking chances. Now, I don't like the chances they take in regards to other people's feelings, but like, we need people to help us have experiences, and sometimes the only way to learn a lesson is to have the lesson. It was in my case. And you know, I turned that experience into something really great. So I'm hopeful that for all the people on the show, they can do the same. All right, yeah.
What is your favorite catfish memory of all?
My favorite catfish memory. Okay, this is easy. It's not something you saw on a show. And I'm going to tell the story partly because there's someone here who is part of the story. So in the back, you'll notice there's a handsome, shiny-head man. That's Tyler Faison. He is the sound recorder on the show. In fact, you've probably seen him in an episode where, remember the episode with Skylar Hazen? And we thought it was hilarious because his name is Tyler Faison. And we thought he was catfishing us. Anyway, on the last night of season 2, we were in Florida. What was the name of that city?
It was outside of Pensacola.
Pensacola, yeah. Pensacola, Florida. And not too far from here, kind of. And it's all the South to me. But we had finished shooting, we were all so excited and happy, and Tyler had purchased some fireworks some days earlier, and we were setting them off. Oh no, sorry, whoa, rewind. We were celebrating in a restaurant that may or may not have served alcohol, and I may or may not have been drinking some of that said alcohol, and exuberantly dancing, and I managed to dance my way through a pane of glass. And see here, you guys see that scar? It was pretty nasty. It was like really bleeding all over the place. So I went to the emergency room, got stitches, and when I got back to the hotel room that Max and I shared, there was sort of a crew after party there. And so I'm bandaged, I'm still covered in blood, and I smell because I was dancing and sweating. And there's Tyler lighting fireworks off of the balcony. And 5 minutes later, knock knock on the door, security, and they're furious because apparently one of the bottle rockets had whizzed past an employee. And so it was leave right now or we're calling the cops. And despite my best efforts to charm the security team, there was like no, that was it, leave or cops. So Max and I, at like 3:30 in the morning, had to pack our bags and head to the airport. I didn't even have a chance to shower, chained, I'm covered in blood and wrapped in like a bandage. And we got on like a 5:30 a.m. flight out of Pensacola back to California. It was kind of an amazing rock star moment. So that was probably my best memory from making the show. Sorry I didn't get to see it. Sure. Yeah, so you asked about Megan. Are you talking about the girl who was actually in the pictures? Or the woman who catfished me? Okay, so her real name was Angela. Right, okay. Because if you look on the last page of the book, well, I don't want to spoil it, but you probably noticed already. There's actually a picture of me with the girl who I thought I was talking to. Anyway, I haven't spoken to Angela in a while. She asked me to kind of give her space, and if she ever wanted to talk, she would reach out. I'd like to be in touch with her, but you know, our lives kind of met, and we had an experience, and then they sort of went separate again. So I don't know if I would say I'm friends, because I have a very strict definition of that word now, especially with Facebook friends and how kind of diluted the word has become recently. So I really only have a few friends that I would say are real friends, and that's enough. But I'd like to be friends with her. All right, let's take a question from a guy.
Out of all the episodes that you've done, which one sticks out the most in your mind? Which was your
Favorite
favorite?
episode, or just one that sticks out the most? That is really tough. And I can honestly say that's hard, because they've all been pretty memorable. I mean, of course, it'd be lying if I didn't say that Kid Cole left a particular impression on me. But you know what's funny? I think the one that I always kind of come back to, just because I'm still so confused about it, was the one with Rod and Ebony. You remember big guy Rod thought he was talking to a transgender man, turned out to just be a woman. He said he was straight, but then he was sort of not into it, and I was like, I never really felt like I got that story all the way. But it was a pretty amazing episode, because do you remember, like, he sat his best friend down and said, "Hey, I'm having a relationship with a guy," and the friend was like, "Whatever, it makes you happy." Yeah, I just did not expect that. It was a beautiful, tender, unusual, strange moment. All right, someone over here.
I'm pretty sure it was the Kid Cole episode where you threw the iPhone in
Yeah.
the water. So, is that like cool that like it's
Yeah, so it's the question about throwing the phone. So yeah, that's a perfect example of old Nev. And I really made a decision when we started shooting season 3, which I didn't know or think was going to happen, but amazingly did, that I was going to try and be a little bit less buttoned up in terms of just not making the episode about me, and just really like removing myself until I was needed to help or assist, and kind of like show my feelings a little bit more, which has been hard for any of you who are or hope to become, you know, public figures. The way that people perceive you often very much influences the way that you act, which is a weird thing, because lately, and I don't know if you guys follow like other people on social media, like Jerome Jar and Nicholas McGallis, like all these great Vine and Snapchat people. We've become really good friends, and lately we've been struggling because we want to make things that our fans like, but we've started to only make things that we think they'll like instead of making things that we want to make and that we like. And after a while, we've all sort of stopped and been like, whoa, we're not actually doing what we want to do anymore. we're just curating what we do to appeal to our fans. And I sort of felt the same thing with how I acted on the show. Was everyone's expecting just this kind of Nev, and there's so much more Nev that they don't know. And can I show them that? I don't want to. I don't know. It was weird. And so that was a moment where, and I remember very distinctly, I was standing there, and I just was looking at this kid, thinking, oh God, I just really don't like you. And I can't believe you're lying to my face, and I'm just supposed to let you sort of do whatever you want because I can't be a jerk, and people think I'm a nice guy, but you deserve something. And my heart started racing and really pounding, like I could feel my heart pounding. And I just remember thinking, just do it, Nev. He's like, this is how you feel, you should do it. And so I did. And I think it was awesome. And it's amazing because everybody since then that's the defining thing that people are like, that was the best. I'm like, cool, you like that. I like that it worked. People weren't upset that Nev lost his cool. Of course, the biggest bummer of all is that Kid Cole ended up winning because the production bought him a new phone, and of course he was smart enough that he had everything backed up to his cloud, so he didn't even lose all the information that I was hoping would get lost so we could stop scamming people. But it was still a win for the good guys, I think. All right, someone in the back, yeah.
Were there any catfish situations that were really difficult for you to investigate?
Difficult cases to investigate. I mean, honestly, they're all pretty difficult. It looks easy because we cut together all the aha moments, and we cut out the hours and hours of just hair pulling and frustrating sort of dead ends. I'm trying to think if there was one really bad. Tyler, back me up if you can think of anything. Because he listens to everything, so he really he knows everything that happens on the show. But there was definitely some that we didn't have no idea, right? I'm trying to remember.
You didn't really get very far with the guy from Alabama with the weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, which one was that?
It was,
Oh yeah, of course.
Jesse,
Right.
Pennsylvania.
Jesse
Yeah.
and Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really
real
weird.
going into it.
Oh, that was really weird. Remember that he had been arrested, but we couldn't really figure out why. It just said possession of weapons of mass destruction. What? And that was real. I can't believe that's a real thing. And yeah, that was really frustrating. And it was really weird. And this is a good kind of thing to mention. He turned out to be the guy he sort of said he was, but like a lot of people, wasn't totally forthcoming with his past, including his post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD, and his sort of the fact that he was still married when they started talking, but she had cheated on him and left him, but still, he kept some things from her. And she was okay and kind of willing to look past that, but very soon after they started hanging out, she and I were texting, and she told me that, it was not working, and that he was a very different person in reality than he had made himself out to be. And so I think it's just important to remember that people have lots of layers to who they are. And so catfish and digital catfish online or not, you never really know who you're getting involved with. So take it slow, introduce them to your friends. Don't isolate your relationship, just the two of you, because you'll never know how it'll turn out or what it'll feel like when you start actually living with someone or dating them. I'm not sure where I'm going with that. Yeah, this guy. Oh no, did I ever see his weapon of mass destruction? No. That was a strange sort of sexual way of phrasing that. No, I never saw his weapon of mass destruction. But I did meet his dogs. Well, you see that on the show, I think. Yeah. Someone in the back. And then we'll go to you. Yeah.
How do you feel about James Franco promoting your book?
Oh, how did I feel about James? Okay, so this is crazy. So, everyone okay? Okay. So, I met James Franco briefly in California at a little music festival. I just sort of went over and said hello, which is something I'm comfortable doing with people. And he had seen Catfish and really loved it, so it was great. He was like, oh yeah, I love that doc, and that gave me something to talk about with him. And I ended up getting his email, that day, and just sort of sending him an email saying, hey, nice to meet you, and he said, cool, yeah, you too. And then nothing after that. And then, like a year later, I was in New York, and my dad took me to see Of Mice and Men, which was a play on Broadway that he starred in. And as I was going to the play, I sent him an email. I was like, hey man, I'm coming to see your play tonight, really excited. And what's amazing about James Franco is that he does I don't know how he does it, but he's just constantly doing something. So moments later, email back, hey, cool, here's my assistant's email, try to meet up with you after. And then, sure enough, after the show, I met up with him. And he's like, what are you doing? He doesn't waste any time. He's just like, he's a machine. He finishes the show, he comes out, he says hello to everybody, he asks everybody questions, and he retains everything. And I told him, I was like, oh, actually, I just finished writing this book, it comes out in a couple months. He's like, cool, send it to me. And then he walked away, and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Anyway, I sent him a copy. It was an advanced copy. I had no idea if he got it. It went to his assistants, whatever. And then, literally, out of nowhere, having no warning or word from him, I showed up on his Facebook page with this Vice review, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, the fact that he took the time to read it and then had what I thought was a really beautiful and kind of profound, self-reflective review and experience with it was just incredible. And considering how much he does and how cool he is, I was just a real honor that he did that. So yeah, that was amazing. Super cool. Yeah.
What are Rel and Henry doing?
What are they doing? So Rel and Henry, my brother and his best friend / business partner, are making movies. They just finished directing and are now in the editing process for a really cool thriller that should come out early next year. It's called Viral, which is, you guys are going to see it. It's going to be awesome. But they're also working on a couple. They're film directors, so that's really what they're up to. And sometimes they also direct commercials. But they're doing really well in the movie business. Yeah. Sure, on the floor. Oh, okay. So, question about international catfish. I would love to. We've talked about, if nothing else, like Canada, Mexico, which would be cool. I would like to, I mean, the UK is the dream. We even almost started shooting like a new series in the UK, but it's tough. We have a big crew. Traveling is expensive, and since everything happens the last minute, like it's a lot to organize. So I'd like to, but I can't say if it will or won't happen. Fingers crossed. Favorite band? Why is that always? Favorite questions are always stump me. Favorite band? Oh, now it's top 3. That's even harder. Now I pick the 3 bands. Okay, I mean, I'll just give you what I really like lately. Daft Punk. If you consider them a band, I do. My youngest fan. Let's see. I'm so bad at this. I mean, I like older music too, I guess. So, like, I'd be lying if I. Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say in like some really cheesy way, like Billy Joel's kind of a favorite. You know, I recently went to see him with my dad at the Hollywood Bowl. That was awesome. Who else? I don't know. I mean, I could just go on. MJ, Justin Timberlake, Steve Martin and the Steep Canyon Rangers. You're into bluegrass. Anyway, I should make I have a Spotify playlist on MTV.com somewhere, which is pretty good. It's got some really good jams on it. Sure. Hi.